It begins with the hush of nightfall, a silence stretching out like a soft, endless sky draped in velvet, somewhere between the quiet folds of dusk and the first breath of true night. A voice begins to whisper, not loudly, not sharply, but with the kind of calm that seems as though it's always been there. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The words don't crash in like thunder. They arrive like a tide, gentle, sure, patient. They belong to a man who never asked for war, yet lived through more than most generals could bear. A man who ruled one of the greatest empires in history, yet found his peace not on the battlefield nor in the applause of the Senate, but in the stillness within himself. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, the reluctant emperor, the master of inner calm in a world bursting with chaos. And tonight, his voice, his thoughts, his soul will be our guide through the storm. A world on fire. Imagine a world unraveling. The frontiers are burning. Barbarians press against the edges of the Roman Empire like waves crashing relentlessly against a fragile coastline. Plague rides through the cities like a ghost no one can see, but everyone fears. Corruption coils itself around the Senate chambers. Soldiers grow weary. Families grieve sons who will never return. Even the skies, dark and roiling, seem to ask, how much more can one civilization endure? And in the center of it all, standing tall, not by force but by resilience, was Marcus. He did not have the luxury of a peaceful life. His reign was not one of marble halls and laurel crowns. His was a rule carved from hardship, from grief, from loss. And yet, his most famous work, a private journal that would come to be known as Meditations, was never meant for fame. It was never written to impress anyone. It was his attempt to stay steady in a world that swayed like a ship on a storm-tossed sea. His voice in the dark. There's something deeply human about a man speaking quietly to himself in the dark. No soldiers, no scribes, no audience. Just Marcus alone with his thoughts, trying to remember that the chaos outside meant nothing if he could master the world within. And so he wrote, "Begin each day by telling yourself, today I shall meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness." But there was no bitterness in that. He did not curse the world for being cruel. He prepared his soul to remain kind within it. This is the Stoic heart. Not the absence of emotion, but the cultivation of stillness within the storm. A nightfall ritual. Picture Marcus and his tent, late into a cold northern night. The lamps are low. The air bites with winter's breath, and outside distant howls echo from the enemy lines. Yet inside, a soft, rhythmic scratching as he writes, on parchment, by firelight. Words not for history, not for posterity, but for self-preservation. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. His pen does not tremble. He is not afraid, not because the world is safe, but because his mind is steady. We can learn from that. You and I, we don't rule empires, but we live through noise, through stress, through invisible wars of anxiety and expectation. And still the method is the same. Return inward. Pray. Let what you cannot control fall away like autumn leaves. Return to what is yours, your judgment, your choices, your calm. Lessons from the Emperor. Marcus reminds us gently, with the gravity of one who has lived deeply, that control is not the same as peace. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Pause on that, because it means that even in the heart of chaos, peace is possible. It means that in the clamor of life, the mind can still be an undisturbed lake. And Marcus practiced this, not just in words, but in the blood-soaked mud of real battles. Imagine carrying the burden of empire on your shoulders, and still making time to whisper to yourself, "You are a soul. Carry yourself with dignity." He trained his thoughts as soldiers. Disciplined, ordered, precise. He was a student of Heraclitus, of Epictetus, of Epictetus, of nature itself. But more than that, he was a student of his own soul. The beginning of our journey. So now, dear listener, we begin. This story is not a biography. It is not a history lecture. It is a meditation on how one man stood in the flames of the world and refused to burn. In the parts that follow, we will walk with Marcus through the forests of war, the marble chambers of Rome, the bitter fields of plague. We will listen not just to his words, but to the silence between them, because therein lies the secret, not in the noise, not in the acclaim, but in the choice to be still, to be kind, to be brave when the world is anything but. Let his story be your lamp in the dark. Let his voice echo within you as your own. And as the night grows deeper, may your thoughts grow gentler. May your breath slow. May your shoulders drop. Because this is where the peace begins. Not with silence in the world, but with silence within you. There is a kind of fire that does not destroy. A flame that lives not in the world, but in the soul. It flickers behind the eyes. It burns in the quiet struggle between who we are and who we wish to be. Before the crown, before the battlefield, before the legacy. Marcus Aurelius was just a boy with questions. And tonight, we return to the beginning of his path. To the moment when the battle was not with enemies or empires, but with fear, with restlessness, with the untamed storm inside. And a boy of thoughts, not war. He was born into a world where fate was not chosen but inherited. From the outside, he had everything: a wealthy family, access to the greatest minds of Rome, a clear future. But something in Marcus resisted the easy path. He was never drawn to the theater of politics or the glitter of public life. He preferred simplicity, plain robes instead of royal fabrics, solitude over celebration. Even as a child, he would walk alone in the gardens, head tilted toward the sky, lips moving with questions no one had answers for. He did not want to rule. He wanted to understand. His first teacher, Rusticus. One man would change everything. His name was Rusticus, a Stoic philosopher. Not loud, not grand, but still as a mountain. He did not lecture. He asked questions. He did not command. He embodied what he believed. From Rusticus, Marcus did not just learn ideas. He learned discipline. He learned the art of watching one's own mind as if it were a stranger in need of guidance. Don't waste what's left of your life, Rusticus told him, on what other people are thinking, unless it's part of your duty. It was the first moment Marcus truly paused. Inwardly, deeply, he realized something simple but immense. There is no peace without mastery of attention. Pray. The chaos within. Marcus did not become wise all at once. He was not born with serenity. He struggled with impatience, with anger, with a hunger for approval he could not explain. There were days when his own thoughts overwhelmed him, spinning faster than any battlefield ever could. There were nights when sleep would not come, when the weight of being chosen pressed against his chest. "What if I fail?" he whispered once. Not to anyone, but to the darkness itself. It's important to know this. Even the wisest feel fear. Even the calmest were once storms. And so Marcus began to write, not for others, but for survival. His journal became a mirror, his scrolls a confession. Each word, a tiny fire burning away illusion. 5. Learning to observe the self. Rusticus taught him, the mind must learn to stand outside itself, not escape, but observe, to step back from anger and simply say, there is anger here. To notice desire and speak gently to it. You are not in control. And so Marcus practiced. Every time irritation rose, he named it. Every time pride whispered, he bowed in thought. Every time fear crept in, he asked, what is in my power? Not in arrogance, but in clarity. And the lesson was not that he should feel nothing, but that he must not become what he felt. You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. That line would echo through his life like a bell. B. The stillness practice. He began to develop rituals. Before sunrise, he would sit with the sky. He would breathe deep and slow until thoughts softened. He would walk barefoot in the garden, listening to the silence beneath the bird song. He would fast, not to punish the body, but to sharpen the soul. Every night, he would review the day. Did I act with reason? Did I speak without arrogance? Did I allow outer things to disturb my inner peace? Not to judge himself, but to refine himself. He called this process inner sculpting, to chisel away what was unnecessary. Anger, envy, greed, fear. Bit by bit, he became lighter, not holier, not superior, just quieter, stronger, more like the man the empire would one day need. You too can begin. You may not wear a crown, but you have a mind, and you have storms, and you have nights like this, where the world presses in, and you wonder if calm is possible. Let Marcus' first battle remind you, peace is not found. It is practiced. You do not need a title to become still. You do not need perfect circumstances to be free. You only need to begin to notice your thoughts, to breathe before reaction, to ask, is this under my control? And then, let the rest go. The ember that became a flame. As Marcus grew, so did his strength. Not the kind that wins wars, but the kind that watches war pass and still keeps its soul intact. Stoicism would later say, he learned not to seek peace outside, but to bring peace with him. This is where our story truly begins, with a boy, a mind, a single, quiet flame in a world already cracking. In the next part, we will follow him as that flame is tested by grief, by betrayal, by the call of Rome. But for now, I let the lesson settle into your chest like warm breath. Stillness is not something you wait for. It is something you choose. There are moments in every life when the soul hears a knock it cannot ignore. Not a command, not a plea, but a gentle, weighty invitation to rise, to serve, to become what the world is quietly waiting for. Marcus Aurelius had always preferred the shadows of the garden to the echo of chambers. He had found more wisdom in the quiet of trees than in the loudness of men. But Rome was calling, not to flatter him, not to celebrate him, but to place a crown upon his head and say, now all this is yours to bear. I, the reluctant heir. He never asked to rule. As a young man, Marcus saw what power did to men, how it made them frantic, how it unstitched their humility. He feared what it might do to him. So he resisted, even when the Emperor Hadrian noticed his promise. Even when Antoninus Pius, his adoptive father and future emperor, chose him as successor, Marcus bowed, but not with joy. He wrote later in his journal, ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions. He would rule, yes, but not for glory, not for wealth. He would rule to practice philosophy, in the most difficult arena of all, life itself. By philosophy meets duty. Imagine Marcus now, in his early 30s, seated among scrolls and senators, learning not only laws but men. He did not enter politics with sharp elbows. He brought with him only what the Stoics had taught: self-control, service, a deep, stubborn inner calm. Rome was not a calm place. It was a theater of ego, of schemes and masks and performances. But Marcus did not fight the noise. He practiced silence within it. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be, he wrote. Be one. And so he tried. He listened more than he spoke. He worked more than he dined. He chose simplicity over spectacle. Even when he had power to punish, he sought instead to understand. He was not naive. He simply believed justice is possible if first practiced in the soul. 3. The first sacrifices. With duty came sacrifice. Long walks in gardens were replaced with sleepless nights in council. Time for reflection became brief spaces between decisions. And still Marcus held to his discipline. Every morning he rose before dawn, not to strategize like a general, but to return to his breath. To remember who he was before the empire asked him to become someone else. He still asks himself each day, what do I control? What kind of man do I want to be? What would reason choose? When you arise in the morning, he wrote, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. Even as the pressure grew, he did not abandon philosophy. He leaned into it. Shave the cost of power. But philosophy is not armor. It does not shield you from pain. It teaches you how to endure it. Marcus faced betrayal. Close allies revealed themselves as opportunists. The Senate often resisted his reforms. Whispers of doubt circled him, that he was too soft, too thoughtful, too philosophical to lead. He wrote nothing in defense. He answered with action and with silence. Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't respond to impressions. Deliberate. He was not made of stone. He felt disappointment, grief, isolation. But he never let those things define him. He turned each hardship into practice, each obstacle to training. He believed, the greater the test, the greater the opportunity to live your principles. A different kind of emperor. Rome had seen emperors before. Tyrants, pretenders, war-hungry men who ruled with fear. Marcus was something else. He ruled like a man who knew he would die. Like a soul already preparing its final thoughts. This made him kind, patient, but never weak. He believed the leader must first lead himself. He kept no court gestures, no lavish banquets. He walked beside soldiers. He shared their tents. He listened to the cries of the people, not just the reports of officials. He wrote, do not be ashamed of needing help. It is part of the human condition to ask for it. In a world where emperors demanded worship, Marcus remained a man who never forgot that empires fall, but the soul, if well lived, leaves a trace that time cannot erase. Vive your own calling. You may not lead an empire, but you will be called to take responsibility, to act with courage when it is easier to stay silent, to choose principle over pride. Marcus reminds us, you do not wait to become wise. You practice it now, with what you're given, with where you are. No stage is too small. No day is too ordinary. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. So ask yourself tonight, what is calling you? What quiet task waits not for applause, but for devotion? What if peace isn't the absence of chaos, but the presence of character within it? Let a line toward the storm. As Marcus took on more power, the storm outside grew. The northern tribes gathered. The plague crept through the cities. The empire strained. But Marcus, he did not flinch. He did not chase peace by avoiding the world. He brought peace into the world by preparing himself. The next part of his journey will take us to war, to frozen fields, to fire and death, and the quiet pages of meditations written under candlelight in tents. But always, he carries stillness with him. As you should. Let your breath slow now. Let your thoughts soften. You're not preparing to escape life. You are preparing to meet it well. And so, this is where we pause. Not with finality, but with readiness. There are times when the wind howls not as a song, but as a warning. When the cold bites so deep into the bone, it feels as though even the soul has frozen. And still, duty moves forward. Marcus Aurelius had always known that Rome was not eternal. But what he could not have known was how profoundly he would be tested. not in senate halls, not in debates or decrees, but in the forests of the north, where fire met frost and men died for reasons no philosophy could soften. This was not the life he desired, but it was the life he was given. And so, into the dark he went. The Marcomanic Wars. The year was 16. The northern frontier burned. Tribes long held at bay by diplomacy and deterrence had unified. The Danube trembled with invasion. The empire, bloated and distracted, was no longer feared. Marcus did not wait. Though weary, though burdened, though unprepared for war, he left behind the marble halls and silk curtains. He rode north, into the forests, into the sleet, into the cold reality of a world without comfort. Life is warfare, he would write later, and a journey far from home. But he did not mean it with despair. He meant it as a call to presence. Higher philosophy in a tent, while generals issued commands and soldiers sharpened blades. Marcus opened his scrolls. At night, with his cloak pulled tight and his hands stiff from the cold, he wrote, not speeches, not strategies, but reminders to himself, for himself. Lines like, you could leave life right now, let that determine what you do and say and think. He wasn't being morbid, he was being clear. War clarifies everything. The trivial becomes absurd, ego, unbearable, the present moment sacred. He wrote by candlelight with death at his door, and still chose kindness, still chose order, still chose to ask himself daily, what is in my control? The plague within. As if war weren't enough, the Antonine plague, possibly smallpox, swept through the empire like wind through dry grass. It did not discriminate. Soldiers, farmers, philosophers, children, gone. Tents became tombs. Cities became haunted. Even the breath of a friend could carry death. Marcus was not spared. He lost friends. He lost commanders. He lost peace of mind. And yet, he remained calm. Do not expect Plato's republic, he reminded himself. Be content to make small progress. Each day he buried men, and still he rose. Still he led. Still he returned to the words he had written and said, I am not the events, I am the response. Grave, the weight of death. There were nights when Marcus stood at the edge of the Danube, watching the moon ripple across black water. Behind him, the moans of the dying. Before him, the uncertain future of an empire, and within him, a question. Not why me, but how will I face this? It is in these moments, with no crown to protect you, no comfort to distract you, that the soul is forged. Marcus did not curse the gods. He did not retreat into despair. He looked into the void and said, death smiles at us all. All a man can do is smile back, not out of pride, but out of clarity, because when you accept what is inevitable, you become unshakable. The Stoic shield. Make no mistake, Marcus felt everything. He was not numb. He was disciplined. Did not suppress grief. He gave it form. He did not erase fear. He responded with purpose. That is what Stoicism is. Not the refusal to feel, but the refusal to be ruled by feeling. He practiced what he preached. He mourned in private. He served in public. He reminded himself, look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if you will always look. And so, as the empire bled, Marcus stood, not as a god, but as a man among men, calm among chaos. The unwritten victory. History rarely celebrates this. There were no parades for the quiet choices, no monuments for the nights spent writing instead of sleeping. But in the pages of meditations we find the truest legacy, practice written not to conquer, but to survive. A philosophy not for ivory towers, but for muddy boots and trembling hands. He never intended for the world to read them. They were his lantern in the dark. And now they are ours, because we too fight silent wars. Not with swords, but with stress, with sorrow, with the gnawing ache of uncertainty. And Marcus shows us, even here, especially here, calm is possible. Tonight, in your own war. You don't need a battlefield to understand what Marcus endured. Maybe your chaos is quiet, an overworked mind, a grief no one sees, a sense that something isn't right, but you can't name it. Let this be your tent. Let this be your moment by the Danube. Ask yourself, what can I control tonight? What must I let go? What thought can I release, even if it tries to hold on? And then, breathe. You are not alone. You stand as Marcus once did before the fire, not to fight it, but to become still within it. Let his voice walk beside you now. The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say or think or do. Only what you do. Let your breath return. Let your shoulders soften. Let your thoughts, if they must speak, do so slowly. This night may be dark, but within you, the lamp still burns. And tomorrow, as it did for Marcus, you will rise again. Some books are written for the world. Others are written for survival. Meditations was not a speech, not a performance, not even a declaration. It was a mirror, held gently but unflinchingly, up to the face of a man who ruled the known world. He had never stopped asking himself, am I living by my principles even here? Tonight we sit beside him, under canvas soaked with rain, while the fire crackles low and the wind claws at the seams. We enter the mind of Marcus Aurelius, a journal, not a triumph. The pages were not neatly kept. There were no elegant titles, no desire to be quoted, just thoughts, half-finished, deeply personal, urgent in their honesty. Be tolerant with others. Be strict with yourself. That was not a command. It was a reminder. Because some days he wasn't. Some days his patience wore thin. Some days anger sparked in his chest like flint on steel. But each night he returned to ink, to quiet, to philosophy. He didn't write because he was wise. He wrote because he wanted to stay wise in a world that pulled him in every direction. A voice that holds. Let us read him not as emperor, but as a friend sitting across from you by the fire. He said, you always own the option of having no opinion. You are not compelled to react. He doesn't say it loudly. He whispers it so softly, in fact, you almost have to lean inward to hear. That's the tone of meditations. Not authority, but intimacy. A man begging himself not to forget what matters, what is true, what will endure when the noise of the day is gone. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Not empty poetry, but a principle forged in cold. Philosophy. Philosophy under mud and blood. He didn't write these words in luxury. He wrote them in the filth of war. Soldiers coughed behind thin walls. Messengers came and went with news of death. The empire groaned under pressure. Still, Marcus found space, even if only minutes a day, to return to the page. Because the page, like breath, is a place of return. He wrote to remember that anger clouds reason. That pleasure is fleeting. That praise and blame mean nothing if the soul is unwell. He reminded himself again and again, don't hanker after what you don't have. Instead, fix your attentions on the finest and best that you have, and imagine how much you would long for these if they weren't in your possession. Gratitude, in war, stillness, in horror, slight, the practice of inner order. Marcus was obsessed with inner architecture. He believed the mind was like a city, and philosophy, its builder. You do not wait for the storm to begin construction. You build before it arrives. And when it does, You are not untouched, but you are unshaken. He built this city, one thought at a time. Look inward. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you will ever dig. When fear pressed against him, he did not resist it with force. He observed it, wrote to it, disassembled it with logic. He did not say, I must be fearless. He said, fear has entered. Let me see what it wants. Let me choose my reply. And the battle within the battle. The war outside was real, but so was the war inside. Marcus knew that chaos is never just out there. It creeps in, through worry, through grief, through exhaustion. He watched himself closely. Was he slipping into pride? Was his judgment clouded by fatigue? Was he serving Rome or his ego? And when he stumbled, he didn't scold himself. He realigned, like a captain adjusting his sails. When jarred unavoidably by circumstance, revert at once to yourself and don't lose the rhythm more than you can help. That's the secret. Not to never fall out of rhythm, but to return quickly. And your own meditations. Maybe you've never faced a battlefield, but you know noise. You know restlessness. You know that quiet ache in your chest that says, I'm not where I want to be. Marcus would tell you, write it down. Not for others, not to impress, but to hold yourself, to shape your thoughts, the way a sculptor chips away until something beautiful remains. You don't need eloquence. You need honesty. Each thought you untangle is one less knot in the soul. The night page. So tonight, let this be your scroll. Ask yourself, what did I feel today that I didn't name? Where did I react instead of respond? What would Marcus have whispered to me if he were sitting here? And then breathe. You are not broken. You are becoming. Just as he was. Even emperors need reminders. Even philosophers tremble. Even you, right now, have within you the stillness that survives storms. Deity in the fire burns quiet. You see, the great secret of meditations is not that Marcus was perfect. It's that he tried. He showed up. He paid attention. He reflected. And in doing so, he gave us more than quotes. He gave us a method. Waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one. So let your breath slow now. Let your eyes grow heavy. You are not alone. You are not small. You are a mind, a soul, a fire wrapped in skin, capable of facing life, not with fear but with presence. And when tomorrow comes, you will wake as Marcus did, and ask not, will this day be easy, but will I meet it with dignity? You will, because you are practicing, because you are building your own meditations. There is a silence that comes not from peace, but from pain too deep for words. It does not scream. It does not beg. It simply is. Like fog rolling over a field where something beautiful once stood. Marcus Aurelius was not spared grief. He buried more than most emperors, more than most fathers, more than most men. And yet, the deeper the sorrow, the deeper he reached inward for steadiness. He did not numb. He did not harden. He softened with discipline. He became still with practice. Because for him, philosophy was not meant to float above life. It was meant to endure it. The loss of blood. He had 13 children. Only a handful survived. Each death carved something out of him. A child coughing in the night. A small hand that no longer reached for his. And still, dawn would come, and he would rise. He never wept in front of the Senate. He did not wail across the marble floors of the palace. But at night, in his journals, he mourned. Not with complaint, but with reflection. To grieve is natural. To continue is necessary. He never told himself not to feel. He told himself to understand what he was feeling. Because the mind must hold sorrow the way the earth holds rain. Not to drown, but to receive. Facing what is When his wife Faustina died, Rome whispered rumors. But Marcus remained silent. He did not entertain scandal. He did not protest injustice. He simply wrote, "Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." He grieved her in silence. He walked the palace as if the walls were made of memories. He wrote not of bitterness, but of acceptance. Accept the things to which fate binds you and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. It sounds poetic, but he meant it literally. Love deeply, then let go when it's time. This was his strength, not to avoid attachment, but to hold it with reverence and release it with grace. 3. The death of friends. Grief did not strike once. It returned often. His most trusted general gone. His mentors gone. His brother by adoption, Lucius Verus, whom he ruled alongside, gone, lost to plague. Each loss a storm, each goodbye an echo. And yet, Marcus did not crumble. He did not armor himself in rage. He returned, again and again, to his first principle. It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live. So he lived, not flamboyantly, not loudly, but fully, with presence, with purpose, with reverence for the now. Tears in the journal. He never claimed to be untouched. His pages show where some lines fade into silence, as if the hand writing them could not finish the thought. Consider how ephemeral and mean all mortal things are. He does not say this to make life smaller. He says it to remind himself, this sorrow too will pass. This pain too is part of nature. This loss too will become space. Space for breath, for clarity, for renewal. In his writings there is no why me, only what now. Not because he lacked grief, but because he honored it by not clinging to it. Philosophy has a grave prayer. Most people pray for peace. Marcus practiced it. Each death became a teacher, each empty seat a lesson. He did not ask the universe to bend. He aligned himself with it. Observe always that everything is the result of change, and get used to thinking that there is nothing nature loves so well as to change existing forms and make new ones like them. Even sorrow, even death, even grief are not interruptions. They are transformations. Marcus did not worship permanence. He bowed to impermanence. Tonight, if you've lost, maybe you too know loss, not just of people, but of hope, of identity, of a version of yourself that no longer fits. Maybe there's an empty place in your day, a silence where someone's voice used to be. Let Marcus speak gently to that part of you. Let him remind you, grief is not the enemy. Grief is the evidence that you loved, that you were human, that you gave yourself to something fragile and real, and now you are invited to live on, not as if they never existed, but as if they gave you something to carry forward. What the emperor whispered to himself at his lowest moments. He wrote things few ever saw. Words not for history, but for healing. In a short time all things will be buried in oblivion, and yet we are still here. He was not hopeless. He was humble. He did not believe the world owed him happiness. He believed it offered him a chance to respond well. He did not see grief as punishment. He saw it as part of the rhythm, the cycle, the river in which all things come and go, and to float there without resistance. That was his peace. The lesson in the loss. So tonight, let us learn what Marcus knew. You cannot protect yourself from loss, but you can prepare your mind to meet it, to hold it, to walk with it, to let it open you, not harden you, and then to continue, to begin again, not because you must, but because you can. That is your strength. That is your dignity. That is your philosophy. Let your breath slow. Let your body sink. You are not escaping the pain. You are remembering that you are bigger than it. Not all endings are loud. Some arrive like twilight, gradually, gently, until the world is wrapped in quiet. Hey, Marcus Aurelius did not die with a sword in his hand, or with applause in his ears. He died as he lived, with calm, with clarity, and with his thoughts returned home. But before the silence took him, he offered the world something rare, a life not of perfection, but of principle, a life that whispered, "Peace is not the absence of pain, it is the presence of purpose." The body growing weary. As the wars dragged on, so did time. The emperor's face aged beyond its years. His voice, once steady as marble, began to soften with strain. His hands trembled when he wrote, but he still wrote. He had lost so much, yet he kept rising. He kept serving. He kept meeting life as it came, one breath at a time. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive. That line became a prayer, because he knew each morning could be the last. And when the body weakens, the soul must grow stronger.
A father to the world.
Marcus had one surviving son, Commodus. He hoped to prepare him. He hoped Rome would continue in balance. But even the wisest cannot control everything. Still, Marcus did not despair. He turned his attention not only to his son, but to everyone who would come after. And he wrote with this in mind: "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be." D1. He was not trying to be remembered. He was trying to live well now. And that, perhaps, is why we still remember him. The final meditations. Toward the end, his writing grew softer, more inward, more spacious. He no longer tried to conquer thought. He observed it like a river. Don't return to philosophy as a taskmaster, but as a patient friend. He had let go of pride, let go of ambition, let go of judgment. He saw clearly that his life, his rule, that his pain, his victories, they were all borrowed, and soon he would return them. Eve. The death of a philosopher. In 80 AD, while still in campaign near the Danube, Marcus fell ill. The tent was quiet. The generals waited. The empire held its breath. And he was calm. There was no begging for more time, no trembling, no protest, just a soft smile, and perhaps one last silent line. Death, like birth, is a mystery of nature. He did not fear it, because he had practiced for it. His whole life had been preparation to meet that moment with dignity. And he did see what he left behind. There was no royal proclamation, no great monument he demanded. Just a collection of notes, a handful of thoughts, written not for immortality, but for honesty. And yet, centuries later, they remain. Because truth, when spoken quietly, echoes longest. Meditations is not a book of answers. It is a mirror. A flame passed from one tired soul to another. And now, it is in your hands. Weigh your own legacy. Marcus would ask you tonight, what will you leave behind? Not in gold, not in words, but in how you lived. Will you choose calm? Will you hold yourself with patience? Will you breathe before you speak? The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Let your thoughts tonight be soft. Let them color you in stillness, in kindness, in clarity. You don't need to rule the world. You need only rule yourself. And in that, you are royal. Stillness, the stillness remains. Now centuries later, the empire is gone. The marble has cracked. The names have faded. But the stillness remains. Because what Marcus cultivated was not power, but presence. Not control, but compassion. And you? Yes, you can continue that legacy. Every time you meet frustration with grace, every time you choose depth over noise, every time you reflect before reacting, you are practicing what he practiced. You are living what he lived. Let the night hold you. So now, let go. Let the night carry your worries. Let your breath become slow and full. You have done enough. You have thought enough. Now, like Marcus, you return to stillness. Not because everything is solved, but because you are at peace with not needing everything solved. You are the flame he lit. You are the rhythm he lived. You are the quiet wisdom passed down through time. So close your eye, feel the weight lift, and let these last words settle over you like gentle rain. But this will be self. There is a wellspring of strength, always flowing, always there. If you only choose to return to it, good night, traveler. You are home. If the soul is a garden, then the mind is the gate. And Marcus Aurelius understood early on, you must choose carefully what enters, because what enters shapes you. He was not born with discipline. He cultivated it patiently, deliberately, and never as an abstract virtue. He sharpened it in the day-to-day battles, with anger, with vanity, with desire, with distraction. This part of his story is not about emperors or wars. It's about mornings, meetings, interruptions, craving. It's about how Marcus Aurelius protected his mental sanctuary in a world designed to storm the gates. The first moments of day. Each morning, before dawn, Marcus rose, not to command an army, not to check messages, not to prepare speeches, but to return to himself. He began with this thought: today I shall meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, and unsocial. It sounds harsh, but he wasn't judging others. He was preparing himself. He did not want to be surprised by difficulty. He wanted to welcome it like a guest already expected, because surprise leads to resistance. Resistance leads to suffering. Anticipation leads to calm. He trained his mind to greet the day as it is, not as he wished it would be. Moments of agitation. Imagine this. You are leading the most powerful empire in the world, and yet you're stuck in a long meeting. A senator is rambling. A servant brings the wrong scroll. A courier interrupts you 3 times in an hour. These were not rare moments. They were daily. And Marcus, like anyone, felt agitation rise. But instead of indulging it, he paused and said to himself, is this in my control? If yes, act with reason. If no, release it. He wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This wasn't theory. This was rescue. Every time the fire of irritation sparked, he met it not with gasoline, but with breath. The practice of pausing. He trained himself to pause before reaction, not to repress, but to observe, like this. A thought arises, I'm being disrespected. Instead of acting on it, he asked, is that true? Is that my ego? A voice criticizes him. Instead of defending, he asked, am I more concerned with being right or being calm? This is Stoic practice, not to escape emotion, but to create space between stimulus and response. A space wide enough to choose. The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. So he guarded his thinking the way others guarded the city gates. The voice inside. Marcus didn't fear enemies. He feared his own undisciplined thoughts, envy, resentment, impatience. He saw them not as sins, but as errors in perception. To him, no thought was final. It could be examined, dissected, disarmed. So when self-pity whispered, you deserve better, he answered, everything suits me that suits your designs, O universe. Not with surrender, but with trust. When pride whispered, you are above, he replied, how ridiculous and how strange to be surprised at anything which happens in life. He met his mind like a student meets a teacher, with curiosity, not judgment. The strategy of stillness. He built rituals into his day. journaling before action, walking alone after duty, reflecting before sleep, not for drama, for hygiene. He believed the mind needed cleansing, the way the body needs bathing. He wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." So he chose thoughts deliberately. Repeated affirmations like mantras: let go, return to reason. You are not harmed unless you believe you are. This wasn't denial. It was discipline. Each thought a brick, each pause a mortar, each breath a beam holding up the structure of calm. In modern chaos, ancient methods, you are not an emperor, but you have noise and pressure and sudden shifts in mood. The same strategy applies. Pause. Ask, what's in my control? Let go of what isn't. Return to the inner citadel. Marcus would say, nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. But that soul must be maintained, like a garden, weeded, watered, watched. So begin with your thoughts. Guard the gate. Choose what colors your inner walls.
Farther than, the disciplined mind is free.
Marcus did not seek pleasure. He sought freedom. Freedom from emotional reflex. Freedom from the tyranny of opinion. Freedom from the chaos of ego. He trained his mind the way warriors train their bodies. Not to win fights, but to remain whole. That's what discipline is. Not a cage, a key to unlock the self from the chaos of the world. So when life pressed against him, he remained tall, not because he was unshaken, but because he had learned how to shake and stay upright. That is the goal, not to float above difficulty, but to plant your feet in it. Stand still, choose peace. Exert, tonight, begin again. So now the lights dim. You are not commanding armies. You are commanding your breath, your inner world. And that, Marcus would say, is the greatest leadership of all. Tonight you do not need to solve everything. You do not need to perform. You need only practice. Let your thoughts slow.
Let your judgments fade.
Let your attention return home. You are building the citadel, brick by quiet brick, and within its walls, chaos cannot rule. Only you can, and you are learning to rule wisely. It does not glitter. There is a kind of wealth that does not shine. It does not announce itself. It sits quietly, in a plain robe, in silence at the start of day, in a bowl of olives. This was the wealth Marcus Aurelius chose. He could have had anything. Feasts, gold, but he chose less. Entertainers, opulence beyond imagining, but as an invitation to freedom, not as an act of denial. Again and again, the temptation of power. The imperial palace was built for indulgence. Silken cushions, wine poured without asking, limbs carved from stone so rare they had no name. Every moment whispered, you deserve more. But Marcus had trained his mind differently. From his youth, he had practiced the art of restraint. And now, surrounded by abundance, he responded not with greed, but with clarity. He understood very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself. The more you need, the less free you are. The robe that never changed. Simple. He wore the same type of robe for decades. Wool. Functional. Not out of poverty, but as a reminder that the body is not the soul. That status is not strength. Not everything that shines has value, and not everything that is quiet is worthless. Marcus Aurelius lived surrounded by noise, ambition, flattery, wealth, crisis, fear, fame. But he spent his life asking one simple question: does this truly matter? Because in a world full of demands and distractions, the greatest wisdom is not knowing everything, but knowing what to ignore. And that is where we go tonight. Not into complexity, but into clarity, and constant distraction. Even emperors are not immune to distraction, perhaps especially emperors. He was constantly pulled, a war at the border, a rumor in the Senate, a request for favors, a messenger with news always urgent, always loud. And yet, Marcus remained centered, because he had trained his mind to ask, will this matter tomorrow? Will it matter at the end of my life? Is this essential or is it noise? That question became his compass, not his emotions, not his audience, but his discernment. The practice of discarding. Every day Marcus practiced subtraction. He removed what wasn't necessary. A thought, a luxury, an irritation, an opinion, because he believed a clear life is not one with more, but with less that doesn't belong. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. His journal became a quiet battlefield, where illusions were faced, questioned, and dissolved. And in the ashes, he found truth. Grace. Illusions of power. The world told him, you are divine. Statues were made in his honor. Coins with his face flooded the empire. Crowds shouted his name as if he were immortal. But Marcus reminded himself daily. Alexander the Great and his mule driver were brought to the same place by death. Did not reject power. He refused to be confused by it. He saw clearly. Power does not make you wise. Praise does not make you virtuous. Legacy does not guarantee peace. So he turned inward, to the only empire he could truly govern, his own mind. Pravi. Illusions of pleasure. Pleasure is not wrong, but it can deceive. Marcus enjoyed music, nature, conversation, but he never let pleasure own him. He saw clearly. Pleasure fades, attachment grows, and when pleasure is gone, craving remains. So he trained himself not to chase pleasure, but to enjoy what is already present. Do not hanker after what you do not have. Instead, fix your attention on the finest and best that you have. And imagine how much you would long for these if they were not in your possession. Gratitude became his replacement for desire. Presence, his replacement for pursuit. The illusions of time. He saw people rushing, worrying, planning, as if tomorrow was promised, as if they had infinite time. But Marcus lived with the awareness that every moment is borrowed. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. That awareness did not make him sad. It made him awake. He did not postpone clarity. He did not delay love. He did not hoard moments. He used them with intention, with awareness, with care. Wave. The essential. So what then truly mattered to Marcus? Integrity, clarity, presence, compassion, alignment with nature and reason. He measured life not by achievement, but by coherence. Was he living in accordance with what he believed? Was he aligned with the rhythm of nature, with the duty of his role, with the truth of his own heart? If yes, he had done enough. Sela, your nightly discernment. And now, tonight, the world may still feel loud, full of alerts, comparisons, deadlines, desires. But you can return to this simple question: what today truly mattered? Maybe it was a kind word you offered, a moment of restraint, a breath taken instead of a reaction given, a silence you honored instead of filling with noise. These are not small things. These are eternal things, and they build the kind of peace no storm can erase. 8. Let the illusion fall away. So as you rest, let Marcus walk beside you once more. Let him whisper. Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary? Let the unnecessary drop away like leaves in autumn. Let the burdens fall. Let the false voices fade. You are not here to please everyone. You are not here to collect more. You are here to become light. And when you do, you will see what Marcus saw. That the essential is always quiet, always steady, always near, waiting to be noticed, waiting to be lived. There are things you can guide, and things you cannot. There are winds you can sail with, and storms you must simply endure. Marcus Aurelius understood this better than most, not as a theory, but as a truth carved into his bones. He ruled an empire he could not fully control. He loved people he could not keep. He lived inside a body that would one day betray him, and still he met fate, not with bitterness, but with acceptance. Not the passive kind, but the kind that clears the mind of resistance, so that the soul may act with grace. What Stoicism says of fate. To the Stoics, fate is not a punishment. It is the rhythm of the universe, not a cruel god on a throne, but a complex, unfolding pattern beyond full comprehension. Some things are up to us, our judgments, our reactions, our decisions. Most things are not. Other people, the past, illness, death, weather, luck. To fight fate is to exhaust the soul. To work within it, to align with it, is to discover peace. Everything suits me that suits your designs, O universe. So wrote Marcus, not as a slave to fate, but as a man who had learned to dance with it. When fate strikes, Marcus watched Rome suffer. Plague swept through cities. Borders collapsed. Trusted men betrayed him. His body weakened. His children died. He did not curse the heavens. He turned inward and reminded himself, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is the essence of Stoicism. Don't just survive fate. Use it. Let it teach you, shape you, refine you, not in theory, but in practice. By the freedom and acceptance. Many confuse acceptance with weakness. But Marcus knew, it is the strongest mind that accepts what it cannot change. He accepted death, so he could live fully. He accepted injustice, so he could act with justice. He accepted impermanence, so he could love without clinging. This acceptance did not break him. It freed him to love only what happens, what was destined. No greater harmony. That is a Stoic song. Not I control everything, but I will meet everything with virtue. Surrender bases action. Marcus did not retreat into fatalism. He still acted. He still ruled. He still made hard decisions, but always with this awareness. He controlled his choices, not their outcomes. This gave him energy to stay calm, to stay just, to stay awake. When fate said, this man will betray you, he said, then I will remain honest. When fate said, he will lose your child, he said, then I will love him now and grieve with dignity. He surrendered outcomes, not integrity. Life as lent, not possession. Marcus wrote often about impermanence, not with fear, but with clarity. You have been given this moment. Use it. It may not come again. To him, life was not something to own, but something on loan. Your health, your time, your relationships, they are not guaranteed. They are gifts. And so, when they leave, you do not scream at the sky. You bow and say, thank you for the time I was given. By Northern chaos, eternal truth. You may not face plague or sword, but you know loss. You know unexpected change. You know moments where everything falls apart. Let Marcus teach you this. The chaos is real, but your resistance is optional. Acceptance is not defeat. It is alignment. It gives you your strength back. When you stop saying, this shouldn't be happening, you start asking, how can I move through this with grace? And that shift is everything. Fiat, the calm behind the wave. Think of fate like the ocean. You cannot control the tide. You cannot stop the storm. But you can float. You can steer. You can breathe through each wave. Marcus chose to breathe, to remain calm, not because the world was calm, but because he refused to add noise to the noise. Let your mind be like the top of the wave, smooth even while the sea churns beneath. He was not detached. He was disciplined. He did not avoid pain. He moved through it, awake. Tonight, let go. So now, ask yourself, what have I been resisting that I cannot control? Where is my suffering simply the refusal to accept? Marcus would not say give up. He would say, return to yourself. Let go of what is not yours, and do well what is. You are not here to carry the world. You are here to carry yourself through the world with dignity. So let your breath slow. Let your hands open. Let the illusion of control melt like snow in spring. You are not failing. You are awakening. And the stillness you seek is already within you, waiting. Some men chase statues. They dream of marble, of buildings with their names etched above grand columns, of echoes that carry their words long after their breath is gone. But Marcus Aurelius was not one of them. Though he ruled the greatest empire in the world, he did not seek to be remembered through monuments. He sought to be remembered, if at all, through moments of integrity, moments of kindness, moments of presence. He understood. The only legacy worth leaving is the one you live right now. The illusion of immortality. In Rome, memory was a form of power. To be remembered was to defeat death. But Marcus saw through this. He walked past statues of emperors long forgotten. He heard tales of legends twisted by time. He read words that had lost their meaning over centuries. All is ephemeral, he wrote. Fame and the famous as well. The ego wants to be eternal. But the soul wants to be true. And so Marcus asked himself, what if no one remembers me? What if everything I build disappears? His answer, then I will still live rightly, because that is enough.
The legacy of one day.
He broke life down, not into decades or empires, but into single days. Each morning, he returned to the same question. How will I live today? Not, what will I achieve? But what kind of man will I be? Will I be patient when it's difficult? Will I speak truthfully when it's inconvenient? Will I act with justice even if no one sees? This was legacy, not the record, but the rhythm, the quiet discipline of choosing virtue, one moment at a time. Flee fame as a distraction. He saw fame for what it was, a mirror held up by others. Easily shattered, easily warped. He wrote, consider the lives of those once celebrated, now long forgotten. What does it matter? Instead of fame, he pursued self-respect, because that cannot be taken, cannot be faked, cannot be stolen. It must be earned through daily alignment with your own principles. And so he let the world applaud if it wished. He let others chase immortality. And he focused on today. The unseen life. Marcus lived fully, even when no one watched. He spoke gently to servants. He practiced restraint in private. He wrote to himself with radical honesty. This was the foundation of his peace. Because a life built only for applause collapses when the crowd disappears. But a life built on truth stands quietly, humbly, forever. What is your art? To be good. No fanfare, no monument, just a choice, repeated. The continuous beginning. He did not wait for a milestone to reflect. He did not wait for recognition to feel whole. Each moment was enough. Each day, a new start. He reminded himself, you don't need a legacy. You need clarity. He once wrote, don't waste time thinking about what a good man is. Be one. And that was it. Not a command, a release. Let go of the pressure to be remembered and focus on the present moment. Lived well. Your own moments. You, too, are writing a legacy, not with stone, but with choices. With every moment you pause instead of react. With every word you offer gently, with every breath taken in patience. You are not here to impress the future. You are here to embody peace now. Let others chase the illusion of grandeur. You can choose something deeper, a calm soul, an honest life, a quiet mind. This is legacy. Feder. The night as a monument. Tonight, ask yourself, did I live with care today? Did I meet life instead of escaping it? Did I love without clinging? Did I choose what truly matters? If so, then you have honored your time. You have built a monument, not of marble, but of presence. Let the day end gently now. Let your breath slow. Let your striving soften. You are already enough. You are already complete. All you need is a moment and a willingness to live it well. 8. The silent legacy. And when your days are done, it will not be the monuments that remain. It will be the moments, the kindness you showed when no one asked you to, the strength you chose when no one praised you for it, the stillness you cultivated in the noise. This is what lives on. This is what shapes the world. This is your silent legacy. And Marcus would tell you, that is all that matters. There is a place within you that no one can touch, no storm can reach, no betrayal can destroy. Marcus Aurelius called it the inner citadel, not made of stone, but of clarity, of discipline, of peace. It is the soul's last refuge. And to Marcus, it was more than a metaphor. It was survival. In a world of chaos, the strongest man is not the one who controls the most, but the one who cannot be controlled from the outside. What is the inner citadel? The inner citadel is your center. It is the stillness beneath your thoughts, the calm within your chest, the deep place that does not react. It responds. Marcus believed that no matter how wild the world became, there must remain a place within you that is untouched. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. And so, if the soul is your fortress, your thoughts are its bricks. Each one matters. Each one builds, protects, or erodes. Why it matters. Marcus faced war, plague, the loss, political deception, personal heartbreak. But he stayed whole because he had built his citadel long before the attacks began. He didn't wait for the storm. He prepared. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He did not rely on circumstances for peace. He relied on structure inside himself. That was his armor. That was his shelter. When you can build the same, fight. How to begin? The citadel begins with awareness. Ask, what disturbs me? Is it truly external, or is it my interpretation? What part of me reacts, and can I observe it without becoming it? Marcus would sit quietly with these questions. No scrolls, no counsel, no distractions. Just a man watching his own mind. The way a captain watches the sea. If the water stirred, he adjusted his course. If it remained calm, he trusted the current. This was the daily work. Not grand, not dramatic, but steady, sacred. Discipline as architecture. The citadel is not built in one moment. It is built by repetition. Each time you choose silence over argument, breathe before reacting, accept without collapsing, let go without bitterness. You lay another stone. One by one, you rise above the noise. Look well into yourself. There is a wellspring of strength that will always spring up if you will only look. This is the promise. Not that storms will end, but that they will no longer own you. For protecting the gates. Marcus warned, do not let just anything enter. Your mind is a fortress. The gate must be guarded. The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts. So ask yourself, is this thought true? Is it helpful? Is it necessary? If not, do not let it in. Not every opinion is worth keeping. Not every fear is worth following. Not every craving deserves your attention. Protect the gate. Hold the line. Repairing what's broken. Sometimes the walls will crack. You will get angry. You will lose control. You will say the thing you didn't mean. Marcus did too. But he didn't abandon the citadel. He repaired it. He returned. He reflected. He forgave himself when jarred unavoidably by circumstance. Revert at once to yourself and don't lose a rhythm more than you can help. That is what strength looks like. Yes, not never falling, but always returning. The 7A. Stillness is your sovereign. In the end, the citadel is not a retreat from life. It is a way to meet it fully. Because when you are calm, you can see clearly. And when you see clearly, you can act wisely. And when you act wisely, you are free. Marcus was not detached. He was present, not above the world, but rooted in it. Still, deliberate, anchored. Yet, tonight, return to the center. So now, ask yourself, what today tried to shake me? Where did I lose the rhythm? What stone needs to be placed back in my citadel? And then, forgive. And then, rebuild. Breathe deeply. Step back inside. You are not what happened to you today. You are who you are in response. Let that response come from stillness, from clarity, from peace. Because your real power, your lasting strength, is already within, waiting, stone by stone. Night by night, most people are ruled by their emotions. They are pulled this way and that, by praise, by anger, by fear, by desire. They do not choose their path. They are dragged through it. But Marcus Aurelius chose another way. He did not erase his emotions. He ordered them. He didn't silence his feelings. He questioned them. And in that pause, between the spark and the flame, he found his strength. But you don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. Let us learn from him now how to respond with reason instead of reacting from habit. The difference between reaction and response. A reaction is immediate. It's instinctive. It's emotional. A response is chosen. It's deliberate. It's aligned with your values. Marcus understood that emotions are not enemies. They are signals, but they are not always true, and they are not always wise. So when anger rose in him, he did not strike. He stopped. He observed it. He asked, what story am I telling myself? Is this anger useful? What would a wise man do now? And then he acted, not from emotion, but from clarity. Anger, the first flame to tame. Marcus faced betrayal. He faced injustice. He faced endless incompetence from those around him. And still he refused to burn. How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? He didn't deny anger. He studied it. He found that most anger came from expectation, from the belief that others should behave differently, that others act according to their own nature, not yours. So he practiced acceptance and corrected only what was his to correct, quietly, calmly, with dignity. 3. Envy and praise. Marcus was praised constantly. He was called divine, glorious, the savior of Rome. But he never let it swell his ego, because he knew praise is worthless when coming from those who lack judgment, and he avoided envy the same way. He did not compare his role to others. He compared it only to his own standard of virtue. Was he just today? Was he rational? Was he kind? That was enough. Fame fades, but self-respect endures. Youth, fear, and uncertainty. There were moments when death felt near. Moments when the empire seemed ready to break apart. Moments when he didn't know what to do. And fear whispered. But Marcus answered, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. He met fear not with force, but with presence. because fear feeds on the future, but reason lives in the now. So he brought his attention back to his breath, to his task, to his choices, and the fear dissolved, the desire and restraint. As emperor, everything was available to him: pleasure, power, possessions, but he chose discipline. He saw that desire is endless, that once you give in, it wants more. So he asked himself, is this necessary? Will this make me stronger or weaker? Is this aligned with my purpose? And if the answer was no, he'll let it go. Don't hanker after what you don't have. Instead, value what you do. This made him powerful, because he ruled himself free. The power of the pause. What made Marcus different was not that he never felt emotion. It was that he inserted a pause, a breath, or reflection, a choice. In that pause he asked, is this useful? Is this virtuous? Will I regret this later? He trained this pause like a muscle, daily, in silence, in writing. So, when the big moments came, he was ready. He did not explode. He did not collapse. He stood still, practicing your own pause. You don't need to be emperor to practice this. You only need 1 second. When anger rises, pause. When fear grips, pause. When envy whispers, pause. When temptation seduces, pause. In that pause, you are free. You can choose clarity. You can return to reason. You can act in a way that will make you proud tomorrow. This is not suppression. It is sovereignty. Eat. Tonight, return to reason. So now, let the day fall away. Let the emotions settle. Ask yourself, where did I react today? Where did I pause? Where can I choose better tomorrow? Do not judge. Do not regret. Observe. Learn. Breathe. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be present, to live with awareness, to lead yourself gently, to let reason guide you back to peace. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Let your intention be simple and pure. This is how calm begins. There is a kind of power that does not raise its voice, that does not punish, that does not dominate. It guides, it protects, it serves. Marcus Aurelius called it justice. He believed it to be the highest virtue, greater than strength, greater than intelligence, greater even than wisdom, because justice, when lived truly, aligns the soul with the order of the universe. It is not about punishment. It is about rightness, about doing what is fair, even when it costs you. Why justice was first. In Meditations, Marcus listed the virtues: wisdom, courage, temperance, and above all, justice. If you've acted justly, you've done well. To him, no action could be virtuous. If it was unjust, no decision mattered. If it was not rooted in fairness, he once wrote, what is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bee. In other words, you are not separate. To live well is to live with others in mind. The challenge of leadership. As emperor, justice was not an idea. It was a burden. Every day he faced corrupt governors, greedy merchants, false accusations, desperate citizens, clashing ambitions. And still he tried to judge fairly, to rule gently, to punish only when absolutely necessary. He resisted cruelty. He rejected revenge. He corrected, but did not humiliate. He believed justice without compassion is just another kind of violence. 3. The temptation to abuse power. He could have done anything. No law could stop him. No man could oppose him. But he restrained himself. He knew the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. He believed that true power was not the ability to do harm, but the strength to choose restraint, even when insulted, even when lied to, even when betrayed. Justice was not just for others. It began with how he treated his own thoughts. The people others ignored, Marcus often walked the streets in disguise, not to be adored, but to observe. He spoke with soldiers. He visited the sick. He asked the poor what they needed. Because justice does not happen in offices. It happens in the real world. He believed no man was beneath attention, no woman unworthy of dignity, no cry for help too small to matter. And when he could not fix everything, he did not retreat into apathy. He did what he could with what he had. Each day, the justice begins inside. You don't need to rule Rome to practice justice. You only need to look inside and ask, am I honest in my words? Am I fair in my judgments? Do I treat others with the same understanding I expect for myself? Because injustice begins, not in laws, but in the heart, in impatience, in prejudice, in pride. So Marcus began there. And when he failed, he reflected. He didn't excuse himself. He corrected himself. That is real justice. The justice in small moments. Justice is not just in courtrooms. It's in how you speak to someone who disagrees with you. Treat the person who serves your food. Talk about others when they are not in the room. Spend money, time, attention. Use your influence, however small. Kindness is invincible.
if it is sincere.
Marcus knew this. Even when you cannot fix the world, you can choose not to harm it further. And that choice matters. The burden of the good. Sometimes justice costs you. It may cost you popularity, comfort, ease, pride. Marcus paid that price daily. He chose fairness over favor, duty over comfort, principle over applause. Not because he was perfect, but because he had decided it is not what you say but how you live that matters. So he lived with care. And when he stumbled, he returned to the path. Always eat your justice tonight. So now, as night folds around you, ask yourself, was I fair today? Did I judge kindly? Did I act with integrity, even when it was inconvenient? If yes, let that soothe you. If no, let that guide you tomorrow. You are not being measured by outcome. You are being shaped by your choices. Choose justice, even when no one sees. Choose fairness, even when it costs you. Choose to live clean, so your conscience sleeps well. The only wealth worth having is a soul in harmony with itself. And that is yours to build. Tonight, tomorrow, always. Time is always slipping. From the moment we are born, we begin losing seconds, one breath at a time. And yet, the only place we ever truly are is now. Marcus Aurelius did not rush through life. He entered it. He did not chase peace in the future. He found it in the present. Confine yourself to the present. That line appears over and over in meditations, not as a slogan, but as a survival strategy. Because in the present, there is no fear, no regret, no illusion, only reality, only peace. I, the enemy of presence. The mind wants to wander, to rewind the past, to rehearse the future, to worry about what hasn't happened, or grieve what cannot be undone. Marcus knew this. He saw it in himself. And so he trained his mind to return. Again and again. Don't let your reflection on the whole sweep of life crush you. Don't fill your mind with all the bad things that might still happen. Stay focused on the present situation. He wrote it like a prayer, a tether, a rescue line. Because the present is not just a moment. It is a homecoming. Time as a teacher. Marcus understood the nature of time. He watched emperors fall, cities crumble, fame vanish. He knew the future cannot be controlled and the past cannot be changed. So what remains? This breath, this choice, this second. You live as if you had infinite time, but all you ever have is this single moment. He did not say this to scare himself. He said it to awaken himself in us. Peace is not elsewhere. We think peace will come when we finish our work, when we reach the destination, when someone finally understands us, when we finally have what we want. But Marcus wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul. Not someday, not when. Now, here, right where you are, whether in a palace or a tent, whether in joy or sorrow. Peace is not about place. It is about presence." Steve, how Marcus practiced presence. He had rituals, sitting silently before sunrise, walking slowly through gardens, writing by candlelight, reflecting before sleep. These were not escapes. They were returns. He did not meditate to disconnect. He meditated to see clearly, to enter the moment without noise, to listen to it without judgment, even in war, even in grief, even in pressure. He asked, "What is the task at hand? What does this moment require of me?" And he gave himself fully to that. Power, distractions, ancient solutions. You don't live in Rome, but you live surrounded by noise, notifications, deadlines, pressures, past regrets, future anxieties. Still, Marcus speaks to you. You have power over your mind, not outside events. That includes the storm inside your phone, inside your thoughts, inside your expectations. So let it go and return. Return to your breath. Return to your senses. Soul, return to now. Visit the freedom of this moment. Marcus believed, if you can live one moment well, you can live your entire life well. Because life is not lived in years, but in seconds. Each moment is a seed, planted with care, tended with honesty, watered with attention, and let it grow. A man's life is what his thoughts make of it. So make your thoughts belong to this moment, not to the past, where you are no longer, not to the future, where you have not yet arrived, but here, where peace lives, practicing now. Tonight, practice what Marcus practiced. Let your thoughts return. Feel the air. Feel your body resting. Notice the sounds, the light, the rhythm of your breath. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not lost. You are exactly where you are meant to be. Here. And that is enough. More than enough. This present moment is all you ever own. Use it well. And in using it well, you live well. 8. Rest inside the moment. So let go of what came before. Let go of what might come next. You do not need to replay. You do not need to rehearse. You only need to be right here, right now, still, soft, safe. Marcus is with you, not in the past, not in the future, but in the silence where your breath slows, where your mind clears, where peace waits patiently for your return. Welcome back. There is power in silence, in not needing to be seen, in doing good without asking for recognition. Marcus Aurelius understood this. He led not with pride, but with humility. He was emperor of the most powerful empire in the world, and yet he walked as if he were simply a man among men. He once wrote, "It is possible to be both dignified and modest," and he proved it. Because true greatness doesn't demand applause. It simply does what is right, quietly, consistently, and without ego. Are the days of praise. Most emperors craved flattery. They surrounded themselves with yes men, with gold, with grandeur. But Marcus, he distrusted applause. If fame comes after death, I am in no hurry for it. He believed that praise can blind you, can pull you away from your principles and into the performance of virtue instead of the practice of it. So he chose honesty over approval, even when it cost him, because he knew what matters is not what others say about you, but what you say to yourself in silence. His simple life. He ate with soldiers. He dressed plainly. He slept on modest bedding even when marble beds were offered. When others exalted him, he bowed his head not in false humility, but in a genuine understanding that you are just a soul carrying a corpse. That was not cynicism. That was clarity. To him, being emperor did not make him better, but made him more responsible. And so he chose a life that did not lift him above others, but placed him beside them. Daily, humility as a practice. Humility wasn't an attitude. It was a discipline. Every day, Marcus reflected on his own flaws. He wrote not about how others should change, but how he could improve. You must build up your life action by action, and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible. He wasn't trying to be perfect. He was trying to be honest. And in that honesty, he found freedom. Because when you let go of your need to appear great, you make space to actually become great. I've ego as a distraction. Marcus saw the ego as an obstacle. A constant whisper saying, "You're important. You must be right. You deserve more." But he knew better. The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject. He reminded himself that truth does not become more true when it is applauded, and goodness is not more good because it is seen. He walked his path with a quiet soul, not needing others to validate it, not fearing their misunderstanding. Leading through service. Marcus believed the purpose of power was service. He did not lead for legacy. He led for the people. He listened. He responded. He corrected his own mistakes. He admitted when he was wrong. And when things went well, he gave credit to others. Take care not to feel toward the inhuman as they feel toward other humans. Even his enemies received his compassion, because he believed your position means nothing if your heart is hollow. What he taught without speaking. His life became a lesson, not through speeches, but through example. His calm, his grace, his ability to walk among slaves and senators alike without changing his tone or his values. He taught that pride is loud, power is quiet. The greatest leader is the one who doesn't need to remind you he is leading. That was Marcus. Your own quiet power. You don't need a crown to live humbly. You only need the courage to listen more than you speak, reflect more than you react, serve more than you seek. Ask yourself, am I acting from ego or from principle? Do I need recognition or am I at peace, doing what is right, even when unnoticed? Remember, you are enough, even when no one claps, even when no one sees. Your integrity does not depend on their eyes, but on your soul. Tonight, walk quietly. So now, let the day settle. Let the noise fall behind. Let go of the need to prove, to defend, to be seen. You are already complete. You do not need more applause. You only need more stillness. Receive without pride. Let go without attachment. Let that guide you tonight. Let humility be your softness. Let quiet be your strength. And as sleep comes, let it find you gentle, grounded, and at peace. Just like Marcus, you are more than you think. Right now, in this breath, in this moment, Marcus Aurelius knew this deeply. Despite war, loss, and the weight of an empire, he practiced gratitude every single day. Not because life was easy, but because he had trained himself to stop looking for peace elsewhere, and instead, to discover it here. Do not hanker after what you do not have. Instead, consider how much you would long for it if it were not already yours. Gratitude, to Marcus, was not a fleeting emotion. It was a discipline of perception. It was the conscious act of seeing clearly. Gratitude as discipline. For Marcus, gratitude was not about pretending everything was good. It was about noticing what was still good, even in difficulty. He trained his mind to return to the simple, the present, the real. One breath, one clear thought, one quiet choice. He who has little and wants nothing is rich. He understood that gratitude is a decision, one that untangles us from craving and brings us back to sufficiency, not passivity, not settling, but a kind of alert appreciation for life as it is. Gratitude during chaos. Many think of gratitude as something reserved for peace, for holidays, for quiet, easy days. But Marcus practiced it in war, in plague, in betrayal. When soldiers died and cities fell, he still wrote, "How fortunate I am to still have the power to respond with reason." He didn't wait for things to be perfect. He looked for what remained: the ability to think, the will to act, the freedom to respond with dignity. These things were enough, and from them, peace could still be built. 3. What is already enough? The others chased more. Marcus practiced enough. He ate simply, lived simply, spoke simply, not because he lacked, but because he had trained himself to notice. Take a moment and consider how much you would crave these things if they were suddenly taken away. That was his practice, to want what he already had, to treasure what was in front of him, to see the miraculous in the ordinary, and through that, he anchored his mind in peace. Slave, gratitude as a mental reset. When the mind spins, gratitude steadies it. When it complains, gratitude says, "But look what's still here." When it compares, gratitude says, "But your path is your own." When it fears, gratitude says, "But you're still breathing." Marcus didn't deny suffering. He simply didn't allow it to become the only lens. He placed gratitude beside it, and in doing so, he saw a wider picture. Gratitude did not erase pain, but it gave it context. And in that space, resilience took root. Tonight, look again. Look around you tonight. You have eyes to read these words. A mind that still seeks. A breath that flows in and out without being asked. A heart that still longs for stillness. These are not small things. They are everything. They are life. And Marcus reminds us, just because something is familiar does not mean it is not miraculous. The greatest wealth is to live with little and want even less. In every breath, imagine every breath you take as a small act of thanks. Each inhale, this is enough. Each exhale, let go of more. Marcus often walked in silence, his thoughts directed not at what he lacked, but at what had not yet been taken from him. Life is short. There is only this moment, and the proper response is gratitude. This was not optimism. This was training. The will to see life clearly and choose not to suffer needlessly. Tonight, you are invited to pause, not to deny your hardships, not to fake happiness, but simply to notice, what have I already been given today? What moment came and went, quietly offering beauty? What pain has softened, even slightly? What thought did I release before it grew heavy? You are not required to feel thankful, but you are allowed to. And that shift from pressure to permission makes all the difference. It is the quiet of thanks. Now, let the day settle. Let the noise fade. Thank your breath for staying. Thank your mind for trying. Thank your heart for still opening. Thank this silence for holding you. Don't imagine having things you don't. Imagine losing the things you do, and realize how rich you already are. Let this be enough. This moment, this breath, this body, this peace. Gratitude is not an escape. It is your return. The world has always been loud. Even in ancient Rome, there were distractions. Crowds, debates, ambition, gossip, fear, fire, war. And Marcus Aurelius, an emperor, a general, a father, a philosopher, stood in the center of it all, yet he practiced stillness. He knew you cannot wait for the world to go quiet. You must learn to be still within it. Nowhere you can go is more peaceful or freer from interruptions than your own soul. And so he built that inner silence, not far from the chaos, but in the midst of it. The nature of the noise. The noise isn't just sound. It's the pressure to perform, the temptation to compare, the endless cycle, what's next, what's missing, what's not enough. Even now, notifications, deadlines, opinions, news, social pressure, internal judgment. The world shouts, and the mind begins to spin. Marcus called this the mental crowd, and warned, you must learn to dismiss it, or it will rule you. Silence has power. To Marcus, silence was not emptiness, it was alignment, the kind of quiet that lets you hear true thoughts beneath the echo of everyone else's. He created silence even when surrounded by chaos, in short walks through the garden, in small pauses before decisions, in simple meals taken with full attention, in his journal, every night, returning to clarity. He was not trying to escape the world. He was trying to remember who he was within it. Be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it. 3. Returning to the inner room. Marcus often wrote about the inner citadel, a mental room where you can step back, breathe, observe, and act with calm. You don't need to abandon life to find peace. You need to return to yourself in the middle of it. He wrote, people try to retreat to the country, the coast, the mountains, but the greatest retreat is into your own soul. That space is always with you, and no one can take it. Eve, what disturbs us? It's not the world itself that disturbs us. It's our thoughts about the world. They shouldn't have said that. I'm falling behind. What if I fail? Why don't they understand me? Marcus paused when these thoughts rose. He questioned them. You always have the option to have no opinion. He didn't mean ignorance. He meant freedom. You don't need to react. You don't need to engage every noise. You can simply return to breath, to presence, to calm. How he practiced. Marcus developed a rhythm. Begin the day with intention. Today I may meet the ungrateful, the envious, the arrogant. I will not be surprised. Observe the mind throughout the day. Is this useful? Is this mine to control? End the day with reflection. Where did I lose the rhythm? Where did I stay true? This rhythm was his anchor. It didn't stop the noise, but it stopped him from being swept away by it. When he was overwhelmed, even Marcus, with all his wisdom, felt overwhelmed. He admitted moments of weariness. He confessed to anger, disappointment, despair. But always, he returned to his core. You have power over your mind, not external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He didn't try to control the outer world. He controlled his relationship to it. That made him unshakable. Not because he was cold, but because he had practiced stillness until it became who he was. Your inner silence. You don't need a temple. You don't need total quiet. You only need to close your eyes and ask, what's truly mine to control right now? What noise can I let pass without following it? Can I sit for one breath longer before reacting? Every time you return to yourself, you practice what Marcus practiced. Every time you pause instead of explode, you build your inner citadel. This isn't passive, it's disciplined presence. It's the strength to be still in a spinning world. 8. Tonight, step back in. Now as the world outside continues its noise, take a step into the room within. Breathe. You don't need to answer that message. You don't need to solve everything. You don't need to know what comes next. You only need to be here, with your breath, with your truth, with your quiet. Let Marcus' voice return. The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do, and only care about what you do. That is your freedom. That is your peace. It's not found in the world. It's found in you. We spend much of our lives holding on to expectations, to people, to the past, to title, to things we cannot control. And it exhausts us. Marcus Aurelius knew this well. He ruled an empire in constant flux. He loved what he could not keep. He lost more than he retained. And still he chose detachment, not as withdrawal, but as wisdom. Receive without pride. Let go without attachment. To him, letting go wasn't giving up. It was learning to walk through life with open hands, holding too tightly. The tighter we grip, the more we suffer. We hold on to roles. We cling to outcomes. We define ourselves by things outside ourselves. I must be understood. I must succeed. They must stay. It must go my way. But Marcus saw this as a trap. You are a soul carrying a corpse. Not to devalue life, but to clarify it. When you cling to what is temporary, you build your peace on sand. Only when you let go can you plant roots in what endures. Detachment is not coldness. Many fear that letting go means not caring. But Marcus proved the opposite. He loved deeply. He served faithfully. He grieved honestly. But he did so with awareness, not illusion. To love only what happens, what was destined. No greater harmony. He knew he could not freeze the moment. He could not prevent loss. He could not make the world align perfectly with his will. So he released his grip. And in doing so, he became free to fully engage, without fear of loss. By letting go of control, he wrote it often. Some things are up to us, some things are not. And that distinction became his freedom. What others think, not his. What happens tomorrow, not his. Whether a plan succeeds, not his. How he responds, that is his. He stopped pouring energy into what wasn't his to control, and focused it instead on virtue, presence, calm, reason, character. And from that center, he let go of what pulled him in every direction. At ease. Letting go of the past, he carried many scars, lost children, betrayals, mistakes, but he did not carry them with bitterness. Time is like a river. Everything that happens is carried away, and what replaces it flows in. He knew the past is no longer real. Only your relationship to it remains. So he examined it, learned from it, and then released it. Because replaying pain does not heal it. Only presence does that. Let go of the future. He watched emperors chase immortality. He watched senators strategize endlessly. And he saw what they all ignored. The only thing that exists is now. Don't disturb yourself by imagining your whole life ahead of you. Live each moment as if it were your last. In peace, in truth, in presence. He didn't stop planning, but he stopped waiting to feel okay. He let go of someday and lived today with full awareness. That is true power. Letting go of self-image. Perhaps the hardest release is ego. The need to be seen a certain way, to be admired, to be right. Marcus had every title, every statue, every public word crafted in his honor. And yet he wrote, soon you will have forgotten all things, and soon all things will have forgotten you. He didn't need to be remembered. He needed to be honest, be good, be awake. And so he let go of how others saw him and focused on who he actually was. Letting go is a daily practice. Letting go is not a one-time event. It is a discipline. Let go of comparison. Let go of control. Let go of being understood. Let go of what might happen. Let go of how it should have been. Let go of what's not yours to carry. And then return to your center, to your values, to your breath. This is the path. This is the stillness. Eat tonight. Open your hands. So now, let go. You don't need to carry the entire day. You don't need to fix the past. You don't need to predict tomorrow. You are not meant to grip life. You are meant to walk through it awake. Breathe in. Breathe it out. Loosen the fists of thought. Relax your shoulders. Soften your mind. Ask yourself, is this within my power? If not, let it go. And if it is within your power, then return to it with grace, with steadiness, with calm, with care. You are not losing control. You are remembering what was never yours to hold. There is a quiet strength that doesn't roar. It doesn't shout to be seen. It doesn't require applause. It burns quietly deep within. Resilience. Marcus Aurelius returned to it every day, not because he never fell, but because he had learned how to rise without resentment. Look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if you always look there. That source is the fire within. Not the fire of rage or ambition, but the flame of calm renewal. The nature of resilience. Resilience is not toughness. It is not gritting your teeth or suppressing your emotions. It is the practice of beginning again with clarity, not denial. Marcus never claimed to be perfect. He admitted fear, sorrow, fatigue. But what made him strong was that he began again. Each morning, each moment, not driven by guilt, not fueled by pressure, but guided by reason and virtue. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way.
Morning. The fire reignites.
Marcus began each day with a reminder that the world might be harsh, that others might be unkind, that his role was not to control others but to control his own response. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly, but I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own. He expected adversity. He did not let it surprise him. And so, each day, he met life prepared and lit his fire anew. Pray, what fuels the flame? Resilience is not endless energy. It is the skill of returning to your purpose. What fueled Marcus? His duty, his love for truth, his desire to act in harmony with nature and reason. He wasn't perfect, but he was persistent. Each moment he strayed, he returned. And that returning, not the perfection, was the essence of his fire. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Rebuilding after collapse. When the body is tired, it rests. When the mind is scattered, it returns. When the day has been lost to distraction, you begin again. Marcus knew the pain of failure, the weight of mistakes. He did not pretend otherwise, but he also did not wallow. He paused, he reflected, and he began again. Every day is a chance to reignite the flame, not because the past didn't happen, but because the future is still open. Endurance without bitterness. True strength is not loud. It is not cruel. It is enduring with kindness. It is persisting with compassion. Marcus faced betrayal and loss, but he did not grow hard. He did not shut himself off. Instead, he chose to remain open, firm in values, soft in spirit. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. This is the fire within, to burn with quiet integrity. By the discipline of renewal. Resilience is not spontaneous. It is practiced through reflection, through honest self-examination, through forgiveness of self, through recommitment to what matters. Each night Marcus would write, not for the world, but to clear the smoke, to tend the flame. What did I do well? Where did I drift? What can I return to tomorrow? If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. 7. Tonight, feed the flame. Now in this quiet moment, let go of the day. Let go of harsh self-judgment. Let go of shame. Let go of perfection. Instead, ask, did I return when I strayed? Did I care, even if imperfectly? Did I try to live with honesty? Then breathe and honor the fire within you. Small, steady, unseen by many, but real, and yours. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Let your thoughts tonight be gentle. Let your fire be tended. Let your spirit rest. You are not failing. You are returning. And in that return is the strength of emperors. Stillness is not the absence of motion. It is the presence of clarity within motion. Marcus Aurelius was not a monk in retreat. He led armies. He made law. He endured betrayal. He made painful decisions in the highest seat of power. And yet, he remained still inside. Not because the world stopped spinning, but because he learned to move from his center. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. The illusion of choosing between stillness and action. Many believe they must choose. To act or to be at peace. To push or to surrender. To speak or to be silent. Marcus teaches a third way. To act from stillness. You do not lose yourself by doing. You lose yourself by doing without presence. He trained himself to pause, reflect, and then act. Not reactively, but deliberately. A man must stand erect, not be kept erect by others. By the anchor of reason. In the swirl of emotion, Marcus returned to reason, not cold analysis, with the inner compass that aligns with virtue, truth, and harmony. Is this action aligned with my values? Is it useful? Is it kind? Is it mine to do? He did not act to please, nor to win. He acted to stay true. Just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter. 3. Motion guided by the Logos. For the Stoics, the Logos, the divine reason or order of the universe, was always moving. Rivers flowed, trees grew, the stars turned. Stillness then was not stagnation. It was moving in alignment with that natural rhythm. Marcus saw his role not as master of the world, but as one part in a greater harmony. His actions mattered, but only to the extent they served truth. Everything that happens as it should, and if you observe carefully, you will find this to be so. Action without attachment. He acted but let go of outcomes. He tried but did not cling to success. Do what you must. Let your words be few. Let your actions speak, and let go of the rest. He knew that attachment corrupts the action. It pulls it from clarity into ego, from service into self-interest, from peace into turmoil. So he returned again and again to the quiet task. Act well, then release. Flee when the world presses in. As emperor, Marcus was pressed from every side. Petitions, wars, politics, expectations. And yet, he cultivated an unshakable center. He wrote not to escape, but to re-enter his duties from a state of calm. Take a breath. Look at it again. Decide from your core. He modeled how to lead without being led by impulse. How to decide without desperation. How to act without abandoning yourself. By motion that heals. Sometimes, action is the cure. When we are lost in thought, a kind act grounds us. When anxiety builds, a step forward restores balance. Marcus did not advocate endless passivity. He believed in engaged living, but living from depth. Don't just say you've read the principles, live them. Stillness then is not disconnection. It is the root from which right action grows. 7. Your movement tonight. Tonight, reflect. Where have I moved from fear, not truth? Where have I acted from reaction, not clarity? What would it mean to move from peace? You do not have to stop moving. You have to stop moving without yourself. Breathe. Feel the center in your chest. That still place where reason, care, and clarity reside. Now, ask, what is mine to do? And can I do it without losing peace? If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. This is the way. stillness in motion, peace in action, not waiting for silence, but bringing it with you. Death, a word most avoid, a thought many bury. But Marcus Aurelius faced it every day, not with dread, but with clarity. He did not glorify it. He did not fear it. He simply saw it for what it was, a natural part of life. It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live. The nature of death. To Marcus, death was neither a punishment nor a tragedy. It was a transition, just as fruit ripens and falls, just as fire burns and then fades. A life too follows its arc. The fear of death, he believed, comes from forgetting our place in the universe. Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you while you live. While it is in your power, be good. The illusion of control. We fear what we cannot control. But death, by nature, is beyond us. Marcus understood this. So he chose instead to focus on what was his actions, his values, his inner peace, and he let go of what was not. The time of his death, how others might mourn or remember him. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. Death as a reminder to live. For Marcus, death was not a reason to despair. It was a reason to act, urgently, wisely, and kindly. Each day might be the last. So each day was sacred. You could live life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This wasn't morbid. It was motivating. To know time is limited is to treat it with reverence, to love more deeply, to waste less energy on what doesn't matter, to align yourself with what does. Eyeball on being forgotten. Some fear being forgotten. But Marcus, despite his status, embraced anonymity. Soon, you will have forgotten everything. Soon, everything will have forgotten you. He did not write to be remembered. He wrote to stay awake, to live justly, to act with reason, to meet the end not with terror, but with readiness. The unity of all things. Marcus saw life and death not as opposites, but as phases of a greater whole. You are part of nature, and nature does not waste. Every breath returns to the sky. Everybody returns to the earth. You do not disappear. You transform. Death is a release from the impressions of the senses, and from desires that make us their puppets. There is peace in this. A letting go. A remembering that you were never separate to begin with. Facing the end with grace. To die well, Marcus believed, was to live well. With courage, with honesty, without bitterness. He practiced each day in small ways. Letting go of ego, releasing control, accepting what came with grace. Let each thing you would do, say, or intend be like that of a dying person. In this, he wasn't advocating sorrow. He was calling for presence. To love as if time were precious. To live as if each act were your last. Because one day it will be sediment. Tonight, let go. Tonight, breathe with this truth. You will die, and so will I, and so will everyone you love. But this is not cause for fear. It is cause for awakening. Let this thought not freeze you, but free you. To stop waiting to begin. To stop holding grudges. To speak what is true. To be kind now. And when your time comes, then you will go with clean hands. With a calm heart. With no need to grasp or run. Everything's destiny is to change. To be transformed, to perish. So that new things can be born. You are part of this sacred rhythm. And in accepting death, you learn to truly live. The world does not owe us meaning. It offers no guarantees. It does not weep when we fail. It does not cheer when we succeed. It moves indifferent, vast, and impersonal. To some, this is terrifying. To Marcus Aurelius, it was liberating. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. If the world is not here to comfort us, then meaning must be made, not found. And we are the makers.
I, the myth of the grand design.
We often wait for signs, a purpose to descend, a voice to tell us who to be. But Marcus rejected the idea of a cosmic script written for one man. Instead, he embraced responsibility. He chose to live with virtue, not because the universe needed it, but because he did. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. I, meaning through action. The Stoics believe meaning is forged in action, not grand gestures, not distant goals, but in the daily choices, to tell the truth, to help someone without reward, to do what is right when no one is watching. These small acts become a flame in the darkness, a life not of spectacle, but of substance. The fruit of this life is good character and acts for the common good. 3. The indifference of nature. Nature is neutral. It does not punish. It does not reward. It simply is. Rain falls on the just and unjust. Storms come to both the cruel and the kind. For Marcus, this was not injustice. It was clarity. You are not exempt. You are not targeted. You are part of the whole. And in that understanding lies peace. Live in agreement with nature. Swerve, choosing your role. You cannot control the stage, but you can choose your role. Marcus chose to lead justly, to think deeply, to act with humility, to serve without applause. Even if the world didn't notice, even if no one remembered, he found meaning in the doing, not the result. Everything you see will soon alter and cease to exist. Think of how many changes you have already seen. The emptiness of external validation. Status fades. Praise disappears. Applause dies out. And yet, we chase them. But Marcus, at the height of power, saw how hollow they were. Ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions. He tied his meaning to what he could govern. His thoughts, his deeds, his inner life. This is the shift, from chasing meaning to embodying it. Valiant, creating meaning in chaos. The world may be chaotic, but your values can be steady. The sky may darken, but your inner flame can remain lit. Marcus teaches, you don't need the world to change to find peace. You need only to act in a way that is true. And that is meaning, to speak with integrity, to help when you can, to forgive what no longer serves, to walk away when it's time, to be the kind of person you would admire. Edifying, tonight return to your center. Now, in the quiet of night, ask, what gave my day meaning? What did I do that felt aligned? What did I offer without demand? If your answers are small, let them be enough, because a meaningful life is not made of noise. It is made of consistency, honesty, and courage. When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love. Let go of the need to be seen. Let go of the ache for validation. Let go of the illusion that meaning must come from outside you. Tonight, rest in the truth. You created meaning today, and you can do it again tomorrow. You become like those you spend time with. Not all at once, but slowly, by the tone of their voice, the quality of their thoughts, the depth of their presence. Marcus Aurelius knew this, and though he was surrounded by courtiers, soldiers, and philosophers, he guarded his inner circle with deep discernment. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. But often, those thoughts are shaped by the voices around us, by the influence of proximity. You do not need to imitate others. They will shape you without your awareness. Their complaints become your worldview. Their cynicism becomes your standard. Their values shape your compass. This is not judgment. It is nature. We are creatures of absorption, and so Marcus practiced deliberate exposure. He sought the wise. He listened to the just. He read the truthful. He sat with those who were innerly quiet, not just externally impressive. Choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. Filtering without hatred. To protect your peace is not to hate others. Marcus did not isolate himself in pride. He walked among all people. But he was selective about whose counsel shaped his heart. When you have trouble getting out of bed in the morning, remember that your defining characteristic, what defines a human being, is to work with others. This means we must set boundaries, not walls. Limit exposure, not compassion. Walk away without bitterness. You can wish someone well and still wish them far. Silence as a teacher. The greatest company is not always a person. It is often silence. Marcus spent hours alone with his thoughts, not to escape but to realign. He journaled. He meditated. He questioned himself. He returned, not to other people's approval, but to the quiet certainty of inner clarity. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. Life, choosing your teachers. He learned not only from philosophers, but from those who practiced what they preached. His teacher, Sextus, who was kind without weakness. His adopted father, Antinous, who ruled without ego. He did not idolize them. He observed them, and in this he became discerning. Who speaks from virtue? Who lives by example? Who is centered, not performative? Let these be your guides. 3. Cleansing the inner circle. You don't need many. You need depth. If someone disturbs your clarity, you are allowed to step back. You do not owe your peace to those who trade in noise. Marcus surrounded himself with the honest, not the flattering, with those who sharpened his mind, not those who inflated his ego. He chose discomfort if it led to truth, over comfort that fed illusions. Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. Be the company you seek. Ultimately, you must become what you hope to find. Steady, honest, reflective, and passionate. Because often, the most disruptive company is the one within your own thoughts. Marcus faced this. He challenged his mind to improve, not through shame, but through devotion, to be worthy of his own respect. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Tonight, revisit your circle. As you drift towards sleep, bring to mind the voices that have filled your day. Who inspired clarity? Who stirred unrest? Who brought you back to your center? And most of all,
what was the quality of your own inner voice?
Was it kind? Was it truthful? You can't always choose who you meet, but you can always choose who you internalize. Let your inner circle be sacred, small, true, steady. And as you rest tonight, may the company within you be a source of peace. Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about your neighbors. Instead, be concerned with how you can make your own actions just, your own thoughts certain, your own soul serene. A storm is not made less fierce by your fear. It is not made gentler by your protest, but it is made survivable by your perspective. Marcus Aurelius stood in storms of power, betrayal, illness, and loss, and yet he saw clearly, not because life was gentle, but because his mind was trained. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. What you see, you feel. The Stoics knew. It is not the event itself, but how you see the event that shapes your emotional world. A delay can be frustration or rest. A loss can be punishment or awakening. A challenge can be threat or training. Perspective is the lens, and you can clean the lens. You can shift the frame. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Why? Reframing the difficult. Marcus redefined hardship. To him, obstacles were not curses. They were material. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Each difficulty became an opportunity to test patience, to deepen wisdom, to embody virtue. He did not romanticize pain. He repurposed it. He gave it direction. Guy standing above the storm. From a hilltop, the storm is still there, but it is seen differently. Marcus practiced elevation of thought, rising above pettiness, viewing problems from a cosmic scale, remembering how brief life is. Soon you will have forgotten everything. Soon everything will have forgotten you. This is not nihilism. It is clarity. To remember, you are not the center. You are part of a vast turning whole. And from that place, storms lose their power to consume you. 5. The choice of meaning. Every experience whispers, "What story will you tell about me?" You get to choose. Will this moment define your despair or your growth? Will you shrink or stretch? Will you react or respond? Marcus chose the story of strength, again and again, not to impress, but to stay free. This letting go of catastrophizing. The mind loves drama, but Marcus questioned it constantly. Is this truly bad or just uncomfortable? Will this matter a year from now? Can I endure this with grace? Most suffering, he realized, came not from life, but from the mind's exaggerations. And so he trained his perception to be clear, calm, and clean. If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. When he practicing perspective, this is not theory. It is practice. When insulted, he remembered the speaker's ignorance. When anxious, he remembered the breath. When overwhelmed, he narrowed his focus to the next step. This is how you reclaim power, not by changing the world, but by changing how you meet it. Tonight, clean the lens. Close your eyes. Let the day settle. Now ask, where did I see things unclearly today? What pain came from perception, not reality? What would Marcus see here from his hilltop? This is the work, not to force positivity, but to see with honesty. This is hard. This is temporary. This is part of being human. This can be used. Breathe. Return to your breath. And from that still place, see again. See differently. Adaptive judgment now, at this very moment. Unselfish action, now at this very moment. Willing acceptance, now at this very moment. Of all external events, that's all you need. Peace is not a gift. It is a discipline. It is not found in moments of escape, but in the quiet rhythm of repetition. Marcus Aurelius did not stumble upon clarity. He returned to it daily. To writing, reflection, deliberate action. Our life is what our thoughts make it. His thoughts were trained through routine. The myth of spontaneous wisdom. The modern world teaches, wait for inspiration when the mood is right. Marcus rejected this. He wrote every day, not to publish, but to remember who he wanted to be, what he wanted to stand for, what life truly was. He didn't rely on mood. He relied on ritual. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. Anchors in a shifting world. Routine is a raft. It holds you steady when everything else shifts. Marcus faced chaos, but his morning reflections, his writing, his moments of stillness became a home, a place to return. Again and again, look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look there. Why, the simplicity of practice. Practice need not be grand. It can be a few lines in a journal, a walk in silence, a breath before reacting, a reflection before bed. Small acts, repeated with care, form the architecture of inner peace. And slowly, quietly, you become steady. Why routine matters. Chaos seduces the mind. It pulls your focus outward. It distracts. It rushes. Routine pulls you inward. It reminds you who you are, what matters, what to release. Marcus built a life within a life, an inner citadel fortified by routine. Dig within. Within is the wellspring of good, and it is always ready to bubble up if you just dig. The rituals of the day.
Marcus taught by living.
And his routines reflected his philosophy. Rise early. Remember death. Greet the day with reason. Do your duty without complaint. Treat others justly. Retire with self-reflection. Each day, a circle. Each circle, a deepening. Not perfection, but intention. Peace as a byproduct. You don't chase peace. You create the conditions for it, like sleep. It comes when you prepare the space. Like breath, it deepens when you stop forcing it. Marcus knew daily reflection was not an act of control. It was an act of surrender. You make space and let peace fill it. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts.
Tonight, begin again.
What does your routine reflect? Is it hurried, distracted, or is it devotional? Did you pause today? Did you reflect? Did you return to your core? If not, it's okay. You can begin again. That is the power of routine. It forgives. Every morning is a fresh canvas. Every night, a chance to look inward. Peace is not built in a day. It is built every day through sacred routine. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Let your thoughts tonight be gentle. Let your routine be your prayer. And rest, knowing you are becoming steady. Not by force, but by returning again and again. Letting go is not weakness. It is wisdom. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire. And yet, he often spoke of release. Releasing control, releasing ego, releasing what is not essential. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. By the illusion of control, we cling to outcomes, to people, to plans. But Marcus watched plans dissolve, to their friends betray, and health fade. He did not crumble. He released. You have power over your mind and outside events. This is not apathy. It is alignment. To do what you can, and let go of what you can't. The art of returning. Letting go is not a one-time act. It is a rhythm. Each morning, release yesterday's worries. Each night, release tomorrow's weight. Marcus practiced this with pen, with silence, with breath, to return to the present. Over and over. Did I breathe? Letting go of being right. Pride grips tightly. It demands agreement, validation, victory. But Marcus let go of the need to win. He chose truth over ego, peace over dominance. It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable. When you let go of being right, you gain clarity. When you release the need to convince, you gain freedom. Letting go of judgment. We carry others in our minds, their failures, their words, their imagined opinions. Marcus let go, not by ignoring people, but by seeing them clearly. When another blames you or hates you, or people voice similar criticisms, go to their souls, penetrate inside, and see what sort of people they are. You will realize there is no need to be racked with anxiety that they hold any particular opinion about you. This clarity is peace. Releasing the outcome, you act, but you do not grip. Marcus sent armies. He wrote laws. He guided people. But he did not confuse action with control. What does not benefit the hive does not benefit the bee. He did his part and released the rest. This is the Stoic way. This is freedom. Why? The weight of possessions. We think letting go is loss, but often it is lightness. Marcus lived simply. Even as emperor, he clung to few things. He knew material excess clouded judgment. He didn't hate wealth. He just didn't need it. Very little is needed to make a happy life. Letting go does not mean absence. It means non-attachment. Tonight, let something go. Close your eyes. What are you gripping? A fear, a regret, a plan. Breathe into it, and with your exhale, soften. You are not giving up. You are giving it space. Let tonight be your practice. To loosen your grip, to rest your mind, to return to what matters. Because in letting go, you finally make room for presence, for peace, for what is real. Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul. Empires fall, battles are forgotten, names fade from stone. But the man who finds peace, when he has won, not because he conquered the world, but because he conquered himself. Marcus Aurelius wore the title of emperor, but the title that mattered most to him was simply student of virtue. A man's worth is no greater than his ambitions, and his greatest ambition was serenity. The victory no one sees. There is no parade for emotional mastery, no medals for choosing restraint, no applause for forgiveness. But Marcus knew these are the real victories. To be insulted and not retaliate, to be tempted and remain steady, to suffer loss and still choose gratitude. Look back over the past with its changing empires that rose and fell, and you can foresee the future too. He saw beyond glory. He saw eternity by living without noise. The world is loud, but Marcus sought silence, not because he feared conflict, but because he valued stillness. Stillness of reaction, stillness of thought, stillness of judgment. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. He refused to let the chaos of others dictate the climate of his soul, and in that refusal he triumphed. 3. The power of gentleness. Gentleness is not weakness, it is strength under control. Marcus wielded armies, and yet his reflections were filled with kindness, compassion, forgiveness. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. But I have seen the beauty of good, and I will not let their nature affect mine. This is peace. To stay kind in an unkind world. That is the triumph. Evie. Death as the final teacher. Marcus faced death daily. It's not with dread, but with reverence. He saw death not as an enemy, but as clarity. What truly matters, what can be let go, but is worth carrying. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. And so he lived, not loudly, but fully. The legacy of the inner life. He left no monument of gold, but his journal became scripture for the soul. Meditations written not for others, but to keep himself aligned. In storms, in pressure, in solitude. It was his way of saying, I was here. I tried. I learned. I remained steady. And that too is a victory. But we carry forward. You, too, live in a world of noise, but you can choose. Silence over reaction, presence over fear, compassion over ego, stillness over chaos. You can build your own inner citadel, brick by brick, breath by breath, choice by choice. And in doing so, they do carry forward his legacy, not as an emperor, but as a soul in search of peace. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Today, tonight, close gently. Let your day fall away. Let judgment rest. Let your mind soften. You do not need to win more. You need to return to stillness, to truth, to the quiet victory of a life well lived. Let peace be enough. Live not as though there were 1,000 years ahead of you. Fate is at your elbow. Make yourself good while life and power are still yours. Rest now. You are the keeper of your mind, the guardian of your peace, and act. is your greatest triumph.